going to start working on the new Dales and Fens series. It's rather fun, and I know many of you enjoyed the first series. So I'm going to be working around Lincolnshire and over into the Dales and doing a whole variety of different scenes again, ranging from steam trains to large abstracts in winter, which I'm about to start here, and landscapes and so on as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy sharing one of these with me as much as I'll enjoy doing them. Now on this first one, this is a large canvas and a whole series of different photographs that I've taken over the past winters. And I want to get the desolation of this scene across the beach. Horizon here, sunlight and all of the cool winter light coming through and the ice and the snow on the beach, it was so cold. Also the dog sitting here, got a lovely photograph of the labrador, the black one, with some washed up crab pots. It gives rather an unusual image. And then through that, in various places, I want to have textures of these berries that are on the beach. They are actually edible. And bring that orange through these various cools and blues. And I'm going to build this up first with wool, and then with textures of filler and PVA glue, and then also with seeds and berries and nuts as well, which have been dried to give extra and additional textures. Then I'm going to prime it with black acrylic, then I'm going to gradually work up the colours. Maybe adding more texture later, using the wools again, but using the wools soaked in PVA glue to give the transparency and wonderful vibrancy of cool colours we can get, linking with the paints. So a mixed media piece. I'm going to cut these wools to texture the various parts that I want to texture. For instance, the netting here, I'm going to cut it for that first of all, and build up just some of these areas of ice edges and so on. And then I'll use the filler, and then I shall use the textures of the seeds and things after that. So first of all I want the wool to go across these areas. If I want a whole series of short pieces, I can just wrap the wool around my hand and then use my knife to cut through, like this. And if I do the same the other way, I'll have enough short pieces to do the whole of that crab pot, I reckon. And then I shall also want some longer ones. So again, if I just wrap around my hand, reduce so many cut once, I'll have enough of the longer pieces, I think, for my needs. And then I need to mix some PVA glue with some water to soak these in, to lay them on. Not too thin a mixture, not too thick either. Just cut through there. And that gives me my longer ones. Right, this sort of mixture will do us. A nice, thin, milky, creamy mixture of PVA glue and the wool, and into that I can add my wool, soak it really well, plenty there, and then take out the bits that I need and just lay them into place on my canvas, and they will just stick and become quite hard and shiny later. So you can see here I've got halfway through the netting and some of the twig areas that I want to be building up for the berries later. I've just cut some more wool. I'll soak up the rest of this glue in that. They're all nice and gungy and covered in the glue. Plenty of it. It's got to stick down really well. Still working up these sticks and bits of netting. Just intuitively feeling also where the lines will go. Once I have that basic netting done and some of the branches of these berries, I've got to start looking at the swirling effects of the ice and how I can build that up right from the very horizon here. Just slop on the wool and make sure that there's plenty of glue to stick it as well. So we're going to be adjusting these textures as we go along. The dog I want to build up with filler and a painting knife rather than use the wool. Right, at this stage we need to let this dry, and you can see how I've now built up some of the basic patterns of these nets and the swirls, and I shall come back into this with filler and glue and then build up the textures more. Okay, first we're going to build up the dog. Just layer some on there until we get within those lines. Make sure it sticks. You must make sure that this stuff sticks on first of all to the canvas before moulding it round. Make sure it's got a good key. So this is a mixture of filler and PVA glue. This is why I use the PVA glue as well, because it gives it more plasticity. It's not going to just crack off. Plus it sticks even better. This canvas is going to have quite a lot of banging about in its life, being transported and things, so if we had just the filler alone, the chances are it would crack off. Shape for the dog done. Now I think we'll also bring out the shadow from it. The shadow, but of course the texture of everything, all this ice and stuff coming across, which is rather lovely. And we're going to add that into the bits of string that we've been putting on. They're going to become a part of it, not just separated out. Feeding of this ice on the surface, and what better to do it than use this paste. Now coming around here, we've got quite a chunk of ice and snow actually laying over this. So this is our base layer, and we're going to start adding textures on top of this a bit later on. Before I lay any textures, I've got to think just where I want things. I'll start adding some, but I'll add some before I put a base colour on, and some afterwards. But the filler is now dried nicely, and I want to start putting texture on the top of this. So I want to use various seeds and grains mixed with PVA glue to do that. It takes a trip to the local supermarket to find something like that. Here we've got ordinary rice grains and then various peas and beans and pulses, which are ideal, and all different sizes and shapes like pebbles and rocks in miniature. So I'm going to mix some of these with the PVA glue, and we'll distribute them and place them and sculpt them into the areas that we want on the ice and the textures that we require. Here's our first mix of some fine textures, rice and so on, and we'll lay those on into the background. I want them to be coming in here. We smooth them actually onto the surface of the canvas as well. We want the cross between the textures of these and the icy texture that we've already got with the filler. Some of this will brush off later, but we want most of it to stay in place, so I'll pat it well down. Now I want some slightly larger pulses. And now another mix. See here we've got nice large strip peas this time and so on. We'll start to add those amongst these textures here. So now these slightly larger beans. And they'll come towards the foreground because being larger objects, that's where we expect to find larger objects. Well, it looks quite attractive actually even now, doesn't it? But hopefully it'll be even more attractive once we get the colours all in. I'd almost forgotten to do with these red berries that I'm going to use to foil against the coolness of all of the ice and snow. And they're going to go in branches up and along these vertical stems. Okay, the seeds have now dried, and I can start to paint over and around them. I want to do this area of netting first, and because I want the netting to be dark, I've got to paint light through here. So I'm going to make a very, very light pink at first, and push that right into and through all this netting. I want that to go behind there. So I'm using a good stiff nylon brush to do this. Because I'm going to put the dark over the top of this netting and let this light show through. Now the thing is, I'm going to do the reverse with the rest of it, because I'm going to put dark over the whole of the rest of the painting to sponge off this surface a bit, because I like the colour of these seeds and things here. And then I'm going to put light over the top of that, so it's going to be the reverse. So here we're putting light and then dark over the top, then we're going to put dark and then light over the top. So that pink coming right down through here. Blue, I'm going to use some cobalt and a little bit of cerulean. Really get in there with that. Comes right up through to the edge of this stuff here. Right, from then on we're going to be using the black. I'm going to cover the whole thing in the black and then I shall work the colours over the top of that again. And now we can work across the surface of these bits of wool to give the effect of the netting and the snow behind, so you can see what I was up to and how it's going to work when I even do the reverse later and we have the light over the dark later on. The thing is, you've got to try and get right into the areas of white, because otherwise you get these little sparkles of white showing which aren't actually very nice in this case. So we've got to really keep the texturing and brush the paint well in, but get right down underneath and around all these bits of textures so that the little bits of white don't sparkle through afterwards. Imagine it uses a fair amount of paint doing something like this as well. You don't realise, I think, sometimes how much materials cost either, but to produce something like this, not expensive in the fact that the seeds and things aren't too bad, but it's still, you know, it soon builds, soon adds up. And so these areas now, these are going to be the bright red berries that we're going to have over the blues. So we're working over it fairly quickly, but it's not easy to see all these little bits of white. Well, there we are, we've got that covered now, so we should be ready to work the light colours over it shortly. A bit of gold leafing here and there before I even start painting now. The people like this colour, this ultramarine mix. It's almost a cobalt, it's in between ultramarine and cobalt. It's a very popular colour anyway. So to make a good base colour for us. Right, that's all the blues in. Now we've got to look at other blues and purples to go over that once that's dried off a bit. Okay, I've done the acrylic base. Now I'm going to start using the actual coloured acrylics, my blues and so on, across the surface. And we've got several pictures we can use. That's the one we're using as the main base down here, but also we've got the sky to think about. Whether to start with the sky actually, although I might put a wash of blue in down here. And this is the beauty of having done these darks earlier, is that the black is going to gleam through. Really attractive these colours can be as well. Gradually build up the pinks and the creams and the variations of warm and cool blues. And there's all sorts of tints going on. There's a slight greeny yellowy tint coming into it down here as well. So it's really enjoy searching for these colours in here. And that gives us the effect of sunlight against this lovely texturing of ice and snow. Got this balance between the extreme cools and the warms. You can see the fun we can have with both textures and paint at the same time, and playing with them one to another like this. So it's worth taking the time to gradually build up these different things, planning ahead to get these effects. Varying brush strokes and textures to really try and get this effect of glistening light that's blinding us over snow and ice. And now we've got the feeling of this icy blast, cold beach on a winter's day, wind sweeping across, blowing the ice crystals and snow, but so clean. And the Labrador dog, we need a slightly smaller brush perhaps for this. Have to work on this backwards and forwards because there's so much texture on the area as well. It's not easy to get the drawing right, or look right. I quite like the texture of that. I don't want to do an awful lot more. What I want to do now is look at these reds and the berry that I was going to have. Yeah, now putting some of these red berries in that are indigenous to this area. We're on the final stages of this. I think sometimes paintings just work and that's it, I say leave them. For me this is about done. Maybe just a little more touches here and there, a little bit of white, but it won't need much. So we'll just put a little bit more white just on top of some of these twigs and branches. You get the feeling of a little bit of ice and snow. We don't want to be too literal and we don't want to take the eye away from the main scene too much either. And I would say we're about there.